Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good night, depending on what time you see this. I'm looking around, like, I'm always watching for bugs. I told you, right? I'm standing in front of a big thicket of bush. Here's something. Quick thing. I want to talk about some of the Bible stories. The Bible has some amazing stories that people never even heard about or, even maybe considered. Stories about Becca, how I found a wife for Isaac, and also about what happened with Sarai, before called Sarah, with Adam and Eve, how with the fall. I talked about it in the last series about this battle as the Lord's. Also, about Ruth, Naomi, Esther, women of the Bible, Mary, who homeschooled Jesus and who did some amazing work as a teenager. I mean, there's a lot of stories we don't hear about in the Bible, and I'm like, I think we better start getting into those because they have a lot of application to the times now. Also, I want to say this thing, very important, and it always comes up in arguments or relationships. People always say, who was at fault? Was it the guy or the lady? Was it Eve's fault? Did Eve have the greatest sin? Was it her fault for falling in the Garden of Eden, or was it Adam? How about Abraham and Sarai, who became Sarah? Was it her fault or his? What about Job? Was it his wife, or was it his? When she says, he says, curse God and die. Sarah tried to help Abraham out, said maybe that the promised child would come through another, her servant Hagar. What about Adam and Eve? God said, Eve said, she believed the serpent that it would eat the fruit would make her wiser, and be like gods. But we saw what happened. The devil deceived her and lied, and then she died. But then the men followed them, and look at what happened. What about David and Bathsheba? David was enticed, gave into passions and lust, and made some bad decisions that almost cost both him and her their life. But it did cost the child his life. And then later on, sadly, the husband of the wife he had an adultery with. So sad. Uriah, he passed away. And you say to yourself, was it right? Should someone have died just so we can know the story? Stuff that happens in the Bible. People think the Bible is boring. It is not boring, people. It's packed with stuff, okay? What about Solomon? God said only one wife, and David had multiple too, David was Solomon's father. Solomon took 1,000 wives, right? 700 and then 300 concubines, like a harem wives, and he said that, that he's going to have diplomatic relations with everybody. When you do it outside of God's way, problems usually arise. Was it wrong? God said, you have too many wives, they'll pull your heart away from me and you'll mess up. And before you know it, Solomon is even helping to sacrifice children. It's a lot of stuff happened that we don't realize. But then you had the good stories about Ruth and Naomi and Boaz, and about Esther. I think it's time to start bringing those stories back to life. I want to do something on those. So by the grace of God, we're going to prayerfully try to get into some of those stories. And let's bring up the women in this life. They did some amazing stuff. I think it's time to give the ladies good props, okay? So we're going to make some more videos later on by the grace of God. Hopefully you have time with everything else. It's been a busy session, and hey, but I'm getting better. And God has some words for his people. Ladies, we love you guys, okay? Don't give up. But in God's relationship, sometimes it's good to listen to the wives. But then remember also Rebecca and Isaac? When she was pregnant with the twins of Jacob and Esau, there were two nations in her stomach, in her womb, that they were wrestling over. But one, Esau, later on he grew up in life, he wasn't a very good character and became the Edomites, but he also didn't respect the birthright and God's promise that well, but Jacob did. But Jacob was also called a supplanter. But his name was later changed to Israel after he wrestled with God. A lot of interesting stories. Hope I can get your interest there. Espionage, betrayal, love, romance, all that stuff. Oh, good stories. I'm excited thinking about it. And I hope by the grace of God we get to continue more. So let's see. I'm heading on a little road trip in a few to go check some stuff out. I want to take a little trip to a nice place I heard called Indiana. There's a lot of there's a history behind it also. Not the greatest, but also around the United States, a lot of the history is not the greatest, not the best. That's why I want to go and try to see it again and say, is it changed now? I would say maybe yes, maybe no, but I think a lot of good things are there in these countries, and a lot of good people I see who maybe are regretting the past and wish things were a lot differently. You never know. I pray to God we make it there safely in one piece, and we shall continue there. God bless you guys. Take care.